WNST, they say.
That's what I'm hearing.
2 more days for your liver to be damaged here in Indianapolis.
No.
Omar Ruiz does things for the National Football League and the NFL Network. 5 years there. We met on a gray night against the Miami Dolphins, but it was a happy ending.
Good night for
We
the
didn't win
Ravens.
enough games this year, so, I meet you amidst a victory. So thoughts about the Combine here. Welcome out. I've been coming
Thank
15
you.
years. It's changed. I mean, we never had all this sexy thing going on here.
Certainly grown over the years. I mean, this is just my second Combine. It's my first exploring the nightlife. Last year I was here. I was sicker than a dog.
Oh.
Was in bed by 7 every night. Wake up, have room service amidst a pool of sweat, having broken the fever. So
Nothing worse than being sick in a hotel room,
so,
dude.
so
Oh,
just
it's
do
the
what I had to
worst.
do for work. But here, experiencing, going out, the liver. You mentioned getting
That's
a
what
workout
this
in.
is.
Yeah.
That's what this is.
And but yeah, it's great to see how this has grown. Of course, watching it on TV for years now.
It's not interesting on TV. I'm sorry to tell you that.
Yeah.
Like guys, they're over here cheering
Yes.
weightlifting.
There are literally
What the hell?
bleachers set up for a
What
bench
has this
press.
come
and
to?
it is interesting.
This is what happened when you don't expand the schedule to 18 games.
But
This is what
the
happens.
fact that you have guys working out in their shorts and essentially it being a TV show now just shows the great interest in the NFL year round. What's having fans come in and cheer and making an NFL experience out of it and having that sort of fan access here, a la the Super Bowl experience and the other events. The draft now is an experience for fans. So obviously shows the popularity of the NFL and just how much everything has grown from the Combine to the draft to Super Bowl coverage and on and on.
I only brought you over because you wear purple. So
appropriate day, huh?
Yeah, for us, the wide receiver thing, the offensive line thing. I mean, we're looking at offense, but we've been doing that for 5 years, and they keep drafting defense.
I mean, Omar, right off the bat, what's the temperature around the league? I mean, you cover the entire league.
Yeah.
I get the sense with the Ravens. I mean, clearly. Everyone knows the track record. Everyone knows they're 5 years removed from a Super Bowl, which isn't that long ago, but it's long enough now.
Yes.
They've missed the playoffs 4 out of 5 years. Not at all saying they're irrelevant, but at the same time, you haven't heard very much about the Baltimore Ravens this week, and that
we don't
might
have the
be by
kind of
design.
players that that you're going to come in and do a feature on. That this event here is really all about the top 10, 15 kids, right?
Yeah, well, Steve Smith Sr., I think was the last maybe household name, not Joe Flacco, to be on the Ravens roster kind of when he left. Well, Terrell Suggs, still there, but doesn't generate the kind of attention that he once did.
Don't tell him that.
Yeah. But
don't tell HBO that.
Yeah. But when given the roster turnover and them looking for those young stars, I think C.J. Mosley, is waiting to break out and become a superstar. He's certainly a solid
Brandon
player.
Williams was on that, singing and dancing, and we're trying to market the guys, right?
Sure. But it all comes back to winning games and getting into the playoffs and having your faces as front and center of the NFL in January and then in February. It's Super Bowl time. So
4 out of 5 is a long time.
Yes, it is a long time. And I think everybody always feels that the Ravens are close because of the track record and because they have Joe Flacco and a franchise quarterback, a Super Bowl winning quarterback in place, that they're just 1 or 2 players away. And I know just in speaking to Ravens fans, the frustration is there that they continue to look for a receiver. And I think ever since Anquan Bolden left, I think people have been talking about, getting that sort of playmaker in there. And they've tried several times over for different guys to step up. And for whatever reason, just hasn't really connected. And I think that's the sort of missing piece because you look at that defense and Suggs and Mosley and Williams, and it's there. And they showed what they could do, kind of, turning it around last year the way they did. But it's just that offense. Can Flacco reconnect with those receivers, get that consistent running game? And I think once they do that, then I think they're ready to be a playoff team again. But again, they're close, and it's one of those. They don't
it's a Groundhog Day effect.
Yes,
it really
is because they're not quite in the playoffs, so they're not getting the positive attention. But they're not so bad that they have a top 5 pick.
They're picking at 16 for the second straight year.
So I don't want to say irrelevant, but they don't command the attention like they once did if they were a perennial playoff team or a perennial.
Like the Browns.
Top 5 pick team. Yeah, I didn't want to say it.
I'll say it. The one thing was the Browns are going to win the draft, right? After this thing's over in Dallas, they're going to win the draft.
Yeah,
right?
Sure. They're going to have the picks, and especially Dorsey saying today that they're willing to trade out. So that would mean maybe 3, 4, 5 more picks.
Who knows, right?
So I mean they continue to stockpile the talent there, and you would have to believe for an 0-16 team as much positivity that surrounded that organization.
You can only go one way at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I
well,
mean,
you would figure if they were to do Cousins, then that would free up for them to trade out of both of those spots and get a whole. If you go from 1 to 7 and 4 to 12.
Yeah.
You still wind up with 2 of the top 12 players. You didn't want a quarterback anyway, so you can probably pick around the field as to what you want.
It's just remarkable, and just talking right now, and you look at the Bengals and kind of what they've done, it seems like every team in the AFC North is close to competing, given the optimism around the 0-16 Browns. And we just talked about the Ravens and the sort of optimism that they might have if they can kind of finally solve their issues, and then the Bengals not having to turn over the coaching staff the way they did, and them just finding back their rhythm after missing the playoffs now 2 years in a row after that 5 straight.
Sure.
So it's going to be a competitive division again. That the Ravens are right there, going to be in it. No reason to see why they can't go ahead and do it.
And I think the formula for those other 3 teams, Pittsburgh clearly has been ahead.
Yeah.
But Le'Veon Bell's a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
They have quite a few free agents and not a ton of cap space. Kevin, their GM already said that Ryan Shazier is not going to play in 2018. Not a big shock, but we officially have heard that now.
Yeah.
So,
which is a huge hole.
Absolutely.
I mean,
we saw that with their defense.
Yes.
Sure.
The sort of drop
I want to go call him
Kevin Colbert
their
said
best
that.
player, but certainly the best player in their defense.
Best defensive player.
Yeah, and the heart and soul kind of thing of their defense. And we saw what he meant emotionally to the team. But I think what went underrated was what he meant sort of physically on the field.
Sure.
In losing him in the back half of the season there. So, yes, I mean, the Steelers are going to be good, but, I think they're ripe for the taking. Especially
they can take a step back.
They can take a step back.
The Ravens in Cincinnati take a step or two forward.
And then, we saw Philly, going 7-9 last year, and then they had so many injuries and still were able to win the Super Bowl. So things can turn around rather quickly in this league, and I think, that's the benefit to parity and the competitive balance that the salary cap and all that sort of stuff, brings to the table. So, Ravens aren't far out, Bengals aren't far out, and Browns supposedly are going to be surprising.
They have the resources to make some.
I got to laugh at that because these kids are so coached up. By the way, Omar Ruiz is our guest from NFL Network. You can follow him out on Twitter, Omar D. Ruiz. This is cool. I can actually hold the phone on people's Twitter.
Yeah.
There you go. I got to start doing that at home.
Just make sure it's not his phone number by accident.
No. That's a 213-555. These kids are so coached up. The first kid to come to the podium was Barkley, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a huge contingent, and whether it's a Penn State or whether it's the top 10 teams in the draft that would say I need a running back or whatever, clearly he's not going to make it to the Ravens at this point.
No.
But someone from Cleveland, the second question is, so how would you feel about coming to Cleveland, a place where they've won one football game in the last 2 years? And I love the way he turned around. He's like, well, I know they only won one game, but they were in a lot of games.
Yeah.
They were in a lot of games.
That's what they always say.
I mean?
They are coached up. And that was interesting to hear from Kyle Shanahan, the 49ers coach. He was asked something about getting to know the players here, and he said, they have that 15-minute window. And he says, you don't see the actual person
they are coached
until maybe 12 minutes in there. And so everyone...
You got to beat them up.
Yes, yeah. So you make a big deal about these meetings, and they got to impress the people off the field as much as they do on the field with their physical gifts and attributes. But really, how much can you get to know a kid in really a 2-minute conversation once you've broken down those walls from the first 12 minutes and in your last 3 minutes? And so, they really have to go back to what they see on tape.
Billick had the greatest icebreaker. Your colleague, my colleague.
Yeah.
You ask him about this next time you see him. Many, many years ago, early on, and when Billick was feeling his oats, kid comes in. And Brian, has the sheet on him, right? And he's watched the film or whatever, and he's seeing, marijuana bust, petty this, petty that. Brian looks at him, comes in, and Brian says, so I've looked at this, and this. Are in there, and in those 15 minutes, not say anything about love, hope, sex, dreams, politics, anything that might anger somebody in there. I don't know that's necessarily, that's not the kid that they get.
Well, no, I think you talk about them playing in a bowl game. Most kids don't play in a January 1st bowl game.
Sure.
Most are done in maybe mid to late December, and then they get right to it. And even sometimes the guys that don't make bowl games or maybe are hurt for whatever reason, they're done in November. So then November, December, January, February, up until this point, they've had essentially 4 months to train and to cover any
they're all in the best shape of their lives.
Best shapes of their lives.
Every one of them.
best shape of their lives, quote unquote.
Sounds like spring training right there.
And so, it's the eternal optimism from these players. And you're right. I think it's become such a big business, and there's so much attention on this combine that they come, ready to go. And it's so funny because I think a lot of the times coaches in the NFL have a little bit of frustration because these kids have been training for these drills specifically, and they lose some of the football skills and how to move there when they get them after the draft for the mini camp or whatever. Say, hey, you got to get used to back playing football. We're not doing 3-cone drills here anymore.
But I think the bench press thing's kind of, first off, it's funny. I mean, I think it's hilarious that this is where we are in February in the NFL. But the other part of it is all these kids know how many reps they've done. They've been very competitive about this. At any position. I mean, all these guys lift weights. They all keep a track of what they do. So the competitive part of this, that's not new to them.
No.
And they've been competing with themselves to put 5 more pounds on the bar or 1 more rep.
But it's funny, talking to Maurice Jones-Drew a little earlier, one of our colleagues at NFL Network, of course, longtime running back for the Jaguars.
He was his own bowling ball, right?
Yeah, bowling ball. And he was just saying, people were asking, what they're 43. I mean, he knew, and it was like he was running, And so anyway, so that's something that sticks with them, speaking of that competitive nature all the way throughout their career, and it kind of fuels them, whether they become a great NFL player or not. The competitive fire, I think, starts here when you're talking about these prospects and what they can do in the NFL.
This portion of our Indianapolis Radio Row Combine is brought to you by Howard Bank, a relentless commitment to be the best at everything they do. Branches throughout Baltimore and Maryland. Don't forget our friends at Royal Farms, real fresh, real fast. I get my coffee cup, but it's over there, and it had bad local coffee here. I got to get home to Royal Farms. Hopefully they won't hold me up with that. Rofo, real fresh, real fast. Download the app, save some dough, get the Western fries and the fried chicken. You get it for free if you're using that app, so make sure you're doing that. Last but never least, the Maryland Jockey Club and Laurel are entries now on the website at WNST.net for the weekend racing, as well as the morning newspaper where we have our entries as well. That's brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Luke's on the set. Omar Ruiz here from NFL Network. You can find him on Twitter at Omar D. Ruiz. All right, let's have our favorite argument of the week.
Okay.
15-yard PI or not. And Luke, we had lunch with a former NFL head coach. We shouldn't rename him, Mike Smith. When we talked to Mike about this at lunch today, he brought up something that I had not thought, and I haven't done a lot of reading on this. It's new to me. This all came up 2 days ago, right?
Yeah.
And he said 2 tiers, kind of like running into the punter and egregiously running into the punter.
Yes.
So if the ball's 54 yards down the field and you take the guy down, it's spotted.
Yes.
It's spotted.
Do it as a spot.
Yeah. Right. But if it's incidental on playing the ball, it's 15.
Yes.
So that's
I like that.
That makes it even more difficult for the officials. I have always been a proponent of, if you're going to give a 62-yard penalty, with 30 seconds left in the game and put a team into the red zone, at least review the damn thing. At least be able to review. So the offensive guy didn't have a clutch on him first, and you're throwing a flag that's affecting a game. I mean, you review the spot of the ball now. Why are you not Luke shaking his head at me?
I don't want more instant replay.
But
I want him to get the call.
But sometimes it's so obvious.
Sure.
That. Well, I guess the frustrating part is when it is obvious. Then how come the ref on the field didn't get it right? But if you're going to review it, you don't want that to come down to a missed call. So you got to review it. But I think in general, my philosophy is every one of these rules that's been put in place seemingly the past 5-10 years, whether it's safety of the game or the pace of play, it always seems like it favors the offense. And so if there's a rule that, kind of brings it back a little bit and brings, a little swing to the defense, I'm okay with that.
But if you tackle a guy in the air on a 54-yard play, there's going to be no incentive to not tackle him
but I don't,
if they're only going to get 15 yards.
But see, I don't think that will come into play. Now, maybe 10 years from now when it's a part of the rule and the coaches have had time to discuss how to, in a technical way, bring down a guy on a deep pass when he's clearly beat. But I don't think the impact will be as significant as we think it might be. I think everyone just says, okay, if you're deep, he's going to drag him down. And I don't think instinctively they'll do that because, they're used to just, trying to play the ball and trying to play defense. So I don't think that'll be as big of an issue as we think it will be.
Well, college is played under this forever. They're not going to ever do this, but 1 foot in would make adjudication.
I don't think they'll ever do that because that's such a college thing.
It eliminates the greatness of an Odell Beckham Jr. or something. Or, Chad Johnson,
going back to the PI idea for a moment. Eric Weddle actually proposed this on Twitter earlier in the week, and he said passes of 30 or more yards. So he would make 30 yards his cutoff.
Okay.
Any penalty on a pass of 30 or more yards, it would be half the yardage of that. So if it was a 60-yard penalty, so to speak, it would be a 30-yard penalty.
Okay.
He said anything under 30 yards would be a spot foul, like how it's always been. I thought that was kind of an interesting middle-of-the-road way of looking at it. Because, again, if we start getting into the egregious thing, and even with reviewing penalties, this is all subjective. I mean, we've been obsessing and will continue to obsess with the whole what is a catch thing because of, even though trying to make the wording objective, there's subjectivity there. Do we really want to add more of that to the replay process? I don't know.
And every officiating crew is different. You know, some let them play more, some let them bang a little more. Very liberal with the 5-yard contact.
Fourth quarter's a little different than the first quarter.
A little different, But this rule just has me thinking. You remember in the Torrey Smith days with Flacco, I think they led the league every year in penalty yards. That was I felt that was built into the game plan.
Torrey might be out of a job if they change this rule.
Torrey had a part-time job diving. Ohio State wide receiver and a Purdue defender.
Might be 5 yards, and he's not even going to be able to grab him. In the NFL, separation is
rare.
A yard, a step and a half.
It's as rare as the James Harden play on Wednesday night when there's no defense.
I can definitely see both sides of this. I mean, look, I grow as tired as anyone of just throwing a ball up 55 yards and there's a little bit of hand fighting and you get bailed out. At the same time, if there's an egregious call and it would have been a touchdown, 15 yards, that's not going to cut it.
I like Weddle's idea, kind of compromise, and you don't penalize a team for having a wide open receiver getting thrown to the ground. But at the same time, you're not.
But it's still substantial.
Yes.
If it would have been a 65-yard penalty, you're going to get 30+ yards of penalty yardage.
But I also think that they don't want to drag this into the season because here we are talking again about rules and officials.
Well, this will all end in Orlando in 4 weeks, right?
Sure.
I mean, they'll have
it's tabled.
They'll either do it or they won't do it.
Tabling this.
Yeah.
They're not going to.
There's no way.
There's no way they're going to get a buy-in on this.
And what we've seen them do the last few years is they'll implement a rule that will be experimented with in the preseason. And they'll just see kind of how that
did that with
went.
The extra point for a year.
Exactly.
Baseball tinkers in spring training, too.
Sure.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
Omar Ruiz joining us here. You can find him out on NFL Network as well as on Twitter at Omar D. Ruiz. Sort of the last thing for you. This is, and I think the Combine, and I don't love the Combine other than the relationships and CMP, all of this, I could sort of live with that, and I have no idea who the Ravens are interested in. What kid? So chasing 14 running backs when they might not even draft a running back is kind of crazy for me. But there is this thing, and certainly the first day of the podium and the way they've set it up now, the first day was fun because you go through the list of all of these coaches and all of these names here, whether it's Duke Tobin from the Bengals or Kevin Cole. They all sit there for 15 or 20 minutes, and there's such hope for all of it. It's the first day of school.
Yes.
I heard a couple coaches say, look, last year, go talk to Peterson about that, but he's 0-0 too, and we're all 0-0. And there's this, we have this much cap space, we have this much, talent we have coming back. We got injured guys, and certainly in the case of the Ravens, we'll be talking about Alex Lewis and Nico Siragusa and Yonder. We'll say the offensive line's going to be fine. We got all these guys coming back, and then there's the Ryan but there's so many discussions across all of these teams. But the one thing, dude, you just sold me hope for the freaking Cleveland Browns.
That's what I'm saying.
The Browns people over here are like, we might win 9 this year. Okay, good for you, but there is a hope here.
Well, and you just look at the numbers. I mean, the facts speak for themselves. You look at the NFC playoff teams last year, except for the Falcons, they were all new to the playoffs.
Well, one great draft for the Saints, you're in. One great quarterback from Philadelphia, you're in. It really
Rams change head coach.
You're in. So I mean, because that experience, with fans in just 2017, and this is something we can say every year.
Don't tell anybody, but the Bills even got in. See, right here?
Yeah, see.
We helped that. You're welcome, Murphy. But everybody has.
There's a reason for it. It's not just, it's not just hype. I mean, it happens.
Dude, I guess the side of this is usually, I go to the owners' meetings in Arizona or Florida. Right now, and Luke's a baseball guy. I'm a baseball guy. You have a Latin background. I'm assuming you played some ball.
Diehard Dodger fan.
Okay, fine. Well, the Dodgers have a chance to win. We're in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Not so much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And half the teams in baseball right now are running around first week of spring training. They suck. I know they suck. Their fans know they suck.
No hope.
The manager knows they suck.
Yeah.
Right. Gabe Kapler can sell whatever he wants in Philadelphia, but it ain't playoff tickets.
Yeah.
And Miami and these other places. This is that's what makes this. And I feel that way about the NBA. You go to the NBA the first day of school. My God, there's 6 teams that can win, and one that's going to win. The guy we drafted last.
round has had a worst, or there has been a division where a worst to first has happened every season, except for maybe one the last 15, 20 years. And so, like, the parity is playing out. And the Eagles were an example of that. I think they were last in the NFC East last year. And they win the Super Bowl.
Equalizer also, when Aaron Rodgers goes down, doors open for everybody.
Yes.
Because, Aaron Rodgers stays healthy. Talk to me about the Eagles one way or the other, but, the Packers are now in that conversation.
Yeah.
Same thing with Houston. I mean, with Watson going down. Changes everything.
Yeah. And I think that was a disappointing thing about 2017, just how many superstars were injured. But, but every team can say that, and you could even say that about the Eagles and how many guys they lost. They lost arguably the best player on their team in their left tackle. They lost they lost arguably the MVP of the league as their quarterback.
Standout inside linebacker.
Yes,
they lost Darren Sproles. Yeah. The 2017 Eagles, that whole narrative as far as if you have injuries – and you can't win.
You got
for
by
them
with
to win a Super Bowl,
that
narrative takes a hit a little bit.
But now it's just like, we talked about them going from, the narrative of them going from 7-9 and then to winning the Super Bowl the next year. Now there's going to be injuries aren't an excuse, like you said. So even in the season, that optimism that we talk about that may fall off if your team struggles to a 3-4, has some injuries. Maybe that'll bring a little more hope to a team's fan base after early season struggles. You look at the Chargers last year, 0-4, and they almost pulled it out.
Sure.
If not,
I would say other than the strike year, that I remember back in the 80s, this was the worst year for the NFL in a billion ways. I mean, from the knee and the politics to the injuries to the what is a catch to all of that, empty stadium. But in the end, the playoffs were great.
Yep.
You got a great championship team. It was a great Super Bowl.
Yeah, the postseason was a big payoff.
Yeah. I mean,
really
it came in and sort of kick-saved it, and I think that helps things here. Because I think if the Super Bowl literally would have been a 49-14 blowout win, that the Patriots went
again.
out, Patriots win again, and the game's over at halftime because they pick off Foles twice, somebody puts the ball on the carpet, somebody blocks a kid. Any
There's
of that
only
stuff,
so much celebrating of Tom Brady that you can do. Seriously, he's the greatest of all time. If you want to say that,
what more can you say? At that point for him. And
but
his
I think that the stories in the postseason really made things. It deodorized a tough year.
And you. So as frustrating as maybe the 2017 regular season was, like you said, for a variety of ways, it certainly had the payoff in the playoffs to kind of get everybody hyped again. And I can't believe that. It's just, 3-4 weeks ago, the Super Bowl. And what the amazing part to me is you have the draft and this incredible lead up to it. And then the draft happens, and everyone's so excited for the season, even more so than maybe
and it's only
right
May
now.
1st.
And it's only May 1st. And you're closer to the previous season's Super Bowl than you are Week 1 kickoff.
Wow. So I never thought about that.
Yeah, so it's you have all that hype, and then you got to get through the summer and the OTAs and everything like that. But it's just another point how this is a year-round business and the hope that these teams have and their fans, and it's exciting.
Well, the Dodgers start in a couple weeks for you, so you get to live out in L.A. You get the sunshine, the girls, the beach, the palm tree. You got all that stuff going on. And ever since he joined the NFL Network, they put 2 franchises in L.A.
Yeah, that's wild.
A lot of power with Ruiz out there on the West Coast. All of our programming here brought to you by our friends at Pizza John's. I got my hat here. Wherever you are, wherever you're listening. They don't have Pizza John's in L.A.
No, I got to get some. Let me see that hat.
I think it's Pizza John's. Okay, my mom's favorite pizza, my wife's favorite pizza.
Yeah.
They're down at Back River Neck Road in Essex. Go see why they've been there 50 years and taste the greatness that is Pizza John's. Also, our friends at King Discount Liquors, Lottery Beer Booze. I'll be there Saturday if I can make it through the wind because I'm out of Malbec and I'm out of beer, and I'm going to need both for next week as well. We also have head coach Barry Trotz joining us on March 29th. I got more details on that coming up. We'll be swabbing for the Bone Marrow Registry and for There Goes My Hero and Leukemia Patients. You can find me, Luke, even Omar, at thebuyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. We're stuck out here in Indy for a little bit, having some fun, checking in with Dennis. If there's any breaking news, Luke gets it first on the WNST Tech Service. That's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis is here this Thursday, next Thursday, every Thursday, but never in Indianapolis. Dennis is one of our sponsors at Coons Ford, and we keep kidding him that he loves the draft. He's never been here. And we keep saying, well, when it's in L.A., he'll go. And he will. And this thing will be in L.A. 5 years
And I've seen the plans. They're going to have a not an amphitheater, but like a side auditorium built into that facility.
Wow.
And then they're going to have the stadium. Then they're going to have what they're going to call a Champions Plaza, where they can have bands and more interactive activities for fans to participate in. So, yeah, so when it is in LA, it's
by the
going to
way,
be awesome.
you can watch a football game there, too.
But, I mean, just specifically for the draft, I mean, that stadium and those different venues at the same facility were built for things like the draft.
Makes me want to sing Randy Newman right now. You know, just I love LA. There you go, man. Rolling down Girl Highway. Omar Ruiz, our guest. Luke's here. We're live in Indianapolis. We're back for more. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.